Hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and today we are discussing a film that is now 20 years old. Can you believe it? 20 years old. And when this film was announced, the fans, as I said, there it is, it's the Phantom Menace, of course, Star Wars Episode 1. When this film was announced back in the day, the fans were over the moon. This is what they was waited all this time for. A prequel to the original Star Wars trilogy. Um, but after it was aired and broadcast and all like that, did the fans really like what they was given by Mr. Lucas? We've got a few fans here, so we'll have to see what they think of the Phantom Menace. We'll go to Susan and Alex first. Oh, lightsaber.
Oh, sorry.
Susan, you'd have been cut down by now.
It's not the same crystals here on Earth. I'm sorry. It's going to take a minute.
Shake it a bit.
Mm-hmm. She needs to find Rogue One to help her with her lightsaber.
Wow. Okay, keep going.
Anyway,
Keep going.
I myself, I don't really like this movie. I don't really like the original trilogy. Well, I like the original trilogy, not the prequel trilogy. It just seems very long-winded to me. And I think the other issue that was fun with Star Wars was the Star Wars New Hope and the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. They were quick. You didn't spend 20 minutes on every single point. And I think that's what drags it down. I understand. I saw the DVD with the George Lucas commentary, and it's interesting. But I definitely could have done without any Jar Jar Binks in my life. I don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way he moves. I don't like his character. This guy here, what's his name? Boss Nash with the Brian Blessed. I like him, but he's a British actor. And a lot of the movies do have British actors too. I like him, but again, I just found the idea okay, but the execution not really. The robots, okay. I probably would have rearranged the movie completely differently, and also I remember my stepfather was a fan of both Star Wars and Star Trek, and I'm pretty sure. And I asked him, and I'm pretty sure he wanted it explained in a different way. George Lucas admitted that he was afraid of losing the audience, that the pod race sequence was very long. It was almost like 45 minutes. And that would drag the movie down. So it is a nice try. At least we don't have Hayden Christensen whining his way as Annie or Anakin or Darth Vader or whatever it is. Yoda does look a little different than I'm used to, but I do like the fact that he's in the prequels. I do like Samuel L. Jackson. I do like Terrence Stamp, Kneel Before Zod, and I do like Ian McDermott. But the problem is, it's the way that they direct the movie. It's the way that it's done that wasn't. It just didn't appeal to me as much. But I mean, visually, it's very good. I know they're trying to do a story. I understand that they want to add some politics to it. But they seem very long-winded, just like C-SPAN and all that. And it's not much fun in your science fiction movie. So they probably should have cut that down, even though the sequence with them looking like they're on pods and floating up and down, that's very cute. But I could have done without this movie. I like Revenge of the Sith mostly when Hayden Christensen isn't talking. But the rest of it, I'd rather stay with the original trilogy from 77 to 83. And I'm also counting the Star Wars Holiday Special. And that was actually pretty bad. And a little bit long-winded with Art Carney, Harvey Korman, and B. Arthur. But but it's a prequel in a way. But yeah, the new trilogy that they've been doing recently is okay. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I understand that he's borrowing from Japanese. I understand that he is trying to make it a serial. I understand that he's trying to make it visually very appealing. But then that's the other question is I don't remember if he's mentioned if he likes the new trilogy that they've been doing for the last 5 years. So yeah, it's very tough for me. I you know, like I said, I prefer the original ones from the 70s and the 80s.
All right. Well, I waited in line for 2.5 days to see this movie. Longer than I ever waited for a a concert or anything else. There was a line around the block in my hometown in Montana. I was a big fan at that point, and I still love it. I was so hyped by the time that the crawl and the theme song happened that I was in tears. I mean, you get that way if you're waiting in line for 2 days, you know? You just get that way. You get talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. I went I went dressed as Amidala. I had a cardboard cutout for the hair. It was sort of fun. And I really liked how all these new creatures. I just love the Gungans. I mean, yes, everybody makes fun of Jar Jar, but the Gungans are a pretty cool thing. Like the city under the sea. There was Obi-Wan again with the mouthpiece breathing underwater. I mean, he'd done that before, and like it was really cool how it had fit together like that. And I personally loved the lightsaber battle with Duel of the Fates behind it. That was pretty badass. I mean, it's extremely badass. And then like there was a sweetness to the way uh Natalie Portman was portraying the Queen, and I really liked that. There were some really good scenes that I'll share with you as my favorite scenes. Um, I've got a lot of them actually, but I've listened to some deconstructions about this movie since then, and I realize I understand that people aren't really as excited with this movie as I am, but that can be said about a lot of things too. I mean, I am a Star Wars fan. There's my shirt, my lightsaber, which is seems to be out of batteries. Not that I'm not using it or nothing, but anyway, it's a fun series, and I enjoyed Phantom Menace. I thought it was really creepy the way that Ian McDermott started, with Palpatine being a really seemingly nice guy, but you could see he was creepy, and I'll tell you about that later. Thanks. Back to you.
That's it. Yeah, we'll go to Brian. Brian, Phantom Menace.
Okie right, so Phantom Menace. I
Brian, you're wearing a Star Wars shirt. That's cool.
I am. It's Force Unleashed. um, but Phantom Menace. What my take upon this film is, not the best, not bad, but but decent enough and slightly enjoyable to watch. It's again, there's a lot of issues and things bad with the prequels within the Star Wars here, and the worst one was Attack of the Clones, but that's a whole different beans. Um, but but Phantom Menace, there, I mean, not all the film is bad. It's just few things here and there, and it is to me. To me, every now and then I do feel like, and I sit down and watch the film. It I mean, the most cool and badass um, character within the film is Darth Maul himself.
Mhm.
Ray Park as Darth Maul. At least that's my feel and opinion upon like one of the big main characters within the film. I mean, I do love Liam Neeson and Hugh McGregor, but Ray Park as Darth Maul is just one of the best within this movie. I just whenever he goes on screen and whenever he goes on screen with every scene that he's in, I just so cool. Um, and um, it, and seeing um, even back when I was watching the prequels, seeing like Palpatine, I knew it was the Emperor from the very beginning, from the get-go, from the prequels, because even though he didn't have the full-on messed up face, and they were trying to hide his eyeballs until Revenge of the Sith, you knew that was him. There was no clear doubt, and there was clearly no denial or anything like that. You knew that was him. And I thought, I mean, I thought that Georgia he wasn't the worst character, but he was mostly, in a sense, a comic relief type of character. Um, there's so many people bashing on Georgia, but I'm not one of them. I honestly just feel like he's the funny comic relief type of character, and just go with it. But the one thing that annoyed me with this is that the introduction to the Metachlorians. What the hell is that about? I don't like that at all. That is not Star Wars. They even have that within the original. They don't even have that within the original trilogy at all. I don't even think they even have that within the new saga of movies that they've been having. But Metachlorians really within.
It's Star Wars.
But and I like. I mean, I
It's Star Wars, Brian.
I enjoy this film I enjoyed this film quite a bit. That I had the PS1 game of Phantom Menace, and that was pretty much as enjoyable as the movie was. And I saw the movie when it got re-released in theaters about a couple years ago in 3D. I saw the Phantom Menace in 3D when it came out in theaters. So I think that was actually the first time I actually did see it in theaters. I don't even think I saw when it actually did come out in theaters the first time, but I saw the re-release. So overall, this is a pretty decent, enjoyable film if you have the time to actually go sit down and watch it. I really like Phantom Menace.
Well, we'll see. We found a new fan for the Phantom Menace. It's just gone up by one now. over to Ethan.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Wow. I remember vividly when this came out 20 years ago, it was big. You couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere. And before this, we only had imagination and books to think, oh, what was it like beforehand and stuff like that. And I was one of the lucky ones who actually saw it when it first released back in 1999. I went to the premiere of it. It was me, my two brothers, and a real good friend of mine, Lizzie, who I went to school with. And we saw it, all four of us saw it together. And yeah, I remember I was excited about it as anything. Being a big Star Wars fan, I thought, oh, wow, this is a prequel. And there were books, and like Brian, I just remembered I had the PS1 game as well. I had books, I was getting all ready for it. And yeah, it has its problems. It does have its problems. You could see bits and pieces, but it's out of the trilogy. I think Revenge of the Sith has the best story of the prequel trilogy, but this one I actually don't mind. Out of the three of them, this one I've always enjoyed, and it has like you've got someone you've got Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, who he's good at the part, but he wanted to play a lot more with it, but they only gave him that certain amount of character detail to play, but he wanted to do a lot more with it. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Ben Kenobi if you're an older fan. Arguably, he actually does play a good young Ben Kenobi, especially like later on when he gets the whole look. And all the other side characters, you've got Jar Jar, he is annoying. He is annoying, and there was always that worry. I remember when there were trailers. I think there was a documentation about it at the time, back in 1999. And it was my mum who said this. And you know this was bad news when we're watching it. And as soon as Jar Jar started speaking, my mum went, yeah, that's definitely a black stereotype. I thought, oh, no. But unfortunately, it was kind of true. I feel sorry for the actor who played Jar Jar Binks afterwards. There's a big thing about that. But anyway, and I feel sorry for the kid after this movie who played Anakin. I actually liked him as kid Anakin. You know, he's just a child actor, wasn't he? But he, it was interesting to see Darth Vader as a kid. Us fans didn't know what was coming. Even with Palpatine, I think we only knew him as Emperor. We just knew him as the Emperor. So when he came on as Sidious, you think, oh, that's his real name. And it was my mate who worked this out when Palpatine, I think it just flew over our heads at parts. But it was my mate, we were starting to recognize the voice. And it was my mate who actually got a book at school and said, Eva, give me a black pen for a minute. What? Give me a black pen. And he drew over this picture, this photo of Ian McDiarmid. And he said, I think I've just cracked it. Palpatine is the Emperor. And you've got Ray Parker's Darth Maul, who obviously doesn't talk much, but Darth Maul is a great character. And those who don't know, a lot of people just know him from the Phantom Menace, where he is just the typical silent villain, the Phantom Menace, because it's the Sith, they're behind everything. But he is a cool character because there's a lot of stories after this where he actually did survive and he got his legs back, but there were cybernetic legs. And he talks a lot more. There's a lot more story to him, and there's a lot more confrontations between him and Obi-Wan Kenobi in Rebel Wars, I believe it's called, Clone Wars. No, Rebels, sorry, and Clone Wars. And yeah, we'd never seen it. I remember all of us were hyped because we'd never seen a lightsaber that was double-bladed. Like something like Japanese weapons where they've got the bow staff and the knives at the end, or the axes. And, we just thought it was cool as anything. And it does have its fun moments. There are moments where it does drag out a bit. Watching this again, I could see where some people are coming from. I watched the one where it's longer. And the pod race went a lot longer. And that does drag out a bit. It's fun, but you've got a lot of cool fights. notes, which I'll get into later. There's even a lot of cool Easter eggs as well, which I've noticed in this. Like, if you're a film fanatic and George Lucas fan, you'll recognize these. Like, in the pod race, you've got Warwick Davis on one scene as one of Watto's mates. And if anybody knows Warwick Davis, George Lucas and him collaborated with Willow. Very good film. And a lot of people missed this one. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but if you look carefully during the Congress scene, the big political debate scene, one of the aliens, because you've got all these different, obviously, pods. Yeah, you've got all these different aliens. But in one bit, there's these 3 ETs.
Okay, Warwick Davis has been in everything that George Lucas has done. I mean, virtually every single movie that he's ever done, except for THX 1138.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he has, actually. Thanks for reminding me. And like I said, you've got these ETs. And I remember we saw this, and we're thinking, did we just see ET in Star Wars in a Congress? But yeah, you actually see ET's race during the debate. So there's a lot of cool Easter eggs in it. And one scene I wish they kept in, for the older fans anyway, was there was a deleted scene with a certain green alien who's bullying Anakin. And Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn stops him and he says, "Excuse me, what's your name?" "Greedo." And if you remember New Hope, Greedo was the one who got shot by Han Solo. And they tell him to bugger off. And it's Greedo's friend or brother or something. And he says to him, "If you keep doing this, Greedo, it's going to be the death of you." So it was a nice little reference to where you go, yep, and it's Han Solo who shot first. But anyway. Yes. But no, it's and you've got Brian Blessed as Boss Nass. I've got to point him out as well. He played the part pretty good, actually. Only Brian Blessed could play a part like Boss Nass, which is good. Visual mechanics. But it's a good fun movie. It's not the best, but it is a decent movie. Not the best, but good. And it is enjoyable. Over to you guys.
Well, also, you gotta remember that this is an origin, like these prequels right here, is an origin story for Darth Vader. It's the beginning and rise of how he became Darth Vader, and why he is Darth Vader and does the things that he does. So
also it's not just the rise of Vader, it's also the rise of the Emperor. The Emperor, even. It's his story as well. It's Anakin's and Palpatine's.
Mm-hmm.
And how they sort of congress and doing everything behind everybody's back. Me personally, I don't see the grief I can see the grief what people have with this movie, but for me, it's still an enjoyable movie. As it's been said, it does have its problems. For me personally, I would have said the problems lie in Lucas decided to do it CGI. Because I don't know, movies with CGI, because the sequel to this, Attack of the Clones, suffers a lot with CGI. This does suffer with the CGI every now and again. They should have just used actors in costumes, me personally, like they did in the original. It could easily have been done. But saying that, the CGI as well on the scenery, the landscapes, is just wonderful. Naboo and all that, it just looks wonderful. But the characters in CGI, Jar Jar gets a lot of stick. Great design. I think where it falls down is, as Brian said, it's comic relief, and the voice is the thing what I think grates on everybody. Yeah, I think it was the wrong choice of voice for that character. Oh, Susan's coming. Go on, what?
I just wanted to interject here that Brian Blessed tried to change the way Ahmed Best was delivering lines and tried to change the way that they were filming Jar Jar because of the way he performed Boss Nass. He concentrated on the words, and then so he tried to change it.
And they should maybe have listened to him. To me, Jar Jar. I think most people's grief with Jar Jar is the voice. Okay, it's comic relief, because in the originals of comic relief we had R2 and C-3PO as comic relief. And in this one is it's R2. Not much for R2 to do in this one, and there's not much for C-3PO to do in this one, seeing as he's not complete as yet. So they had to get comic relief from somewhere else, and they created Jar Jar. And there was a lot of backlash after this movie because of Jar Jar. And Lucas, I think, sort of listened to that because he just put Jar Jar to the back of the next two movies, really. Yeah.
And the next two, Attack of the Clones, he was only in a scene, and he had a brief. And then after that, in Revenge of the Sith, it was a brief cameo at the end.
Yeah. He listened to the fans on that point.
But
what about the kids? Is it
what about the whole thing of like there was like this theory of like Jar Jar being a Sith Lord?
I was actually going to drop. Yeah, I remember that being pointed out. Actually, even back then, they said something like, "Oh, supposedly," but I think they sort of just didn't go ahead with that, did they? And one of the other problems, and I couldn't help but laugh at this every time these guys spoke. I think one of the other backlash was the Nemoidians, I believe they're called, the Trade Federation gang, who led by Newt Gunray. I mean that. If you close your eyes, you'd imagine it was a Chinese guy talking, or Oriental guy. So that got a lot of backlash as well. So there was a lot of almost stereotypes and stuff. But
don't you think that we on Earth have read too much into the characterizations?
I think we have. Yeah, that's an interesting one. We probably have read too much into characterizations and stuff like that. And I do remember people made a complaint about this, but it's just a movie, ain't it? As Simon Pegg said about the Star Wars films, they're just movies.
Exactly. But I mean, Jake Lloyd was good as a young Anakin. He was, Liam Neeson, I can take or leave him in any movie. Ewan McGregor, portrayed Obi-Wan brilliantly, but my only problem is having the original movies with Alec Guinness. That's all I could picture was Alec Guinness in my head when I was watching it. That's the problem when you do prequels and you have other actors playing characters before. I always have the older actors in my head when it's my problem. But that's going back to the Emperor, Palpatine, and Brian, we knew it was the Emperor from day one on Phantom Menace because it was the same actor who played the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. So we knew he'd become the Emperor at some point.
And of course, the other issue is, unfortunately, it doesn't age well, especially with those voices. They probably should have been played a little bit more middle of the road pronunciation. And of course, the Emperor's coming back for the Rise of Skywalker as well.
Oh yeah.
So
but we don't know how. We don't know how,
but I think it's the problem of he wanted to have an alien world, but at the same point, he didn't want everybody to sound alike. But at the same point, it just comes over as too strong. So I think that's the issue: is that the emphasis and the pitch sort of gets a little grating, especially with Jar Jar Binks.
I mean, also as well, the as I said, there is parts of it where it does drag, and mainly that is the parts where it's all the political jargon going on. I don't know why Lucas thought people might be interested in all that. Yeah. They want come to see a Star Wars movie, good against evil, not political talk.
Wow.
But yeah, it's enjoyable. I mean, the pod race.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's gone down.
the whole thing was
It's gone down in history, one of the best scenes in movie history. The pod race.
I mean, the whole thing with the Emperor was stupid because it was like, well, all the prequels, they wanted to keep it under wraps and a surprise. They were trying to me, it felt like they were trying to keep it a surprise to see who the Emperor was until the very end.
We knew he was the Emperor
I was
because
going to say, so the surprise was ruined on that one. We knew it was him.
we knew the Emperor because before the prequels were made, everybody knew who the Emperor was because it had gone down in Star Wars history in the novels who the Emperor was.
Because you notice like within Phantom Menace and Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, you only see his nose and mouth until Revenge of the Sith.
But the voice, I mean, he's got a really super distinctive voice, Brian.
I know that.
Ian McDermott never tried to alter his pronunciation or anything.
I'm just saying like I don't know who decided to do that, but it's like they were trying to make it like where the audience or fans wouldn't know who it was between the two.
Okay, well, I mean, some of that's marketing. Go ahead, Lee.
Lee, what?
Oh, he froze.
There wasn't trying to fool us about the Emperor. The Emperor was fooling the people in the movie, not us.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but still, it was. I just feel like I still feel like it was kind of weird of like how they did that only for like the two movies.
Yeah, but he was doing that to fool. He was doing that to fool the people he was talking to. He wasn't fooling the people sat in the audience. It's just the story. It's telling the story of how he was working behind the scenes to corrupt everything.
Oh, okay.
So, well, the other issue is all the political talk would have maybe been more effective if they, just like in the first movie in New Hope, they show Alderaan getting destroyed. But here, the only reason why you know it's the least bit serious is because of was it Queen Amidala Padme, whatever. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. It would just be talking. It would be totally abstract.
Yeah.
And you would have no. So I understand that for economy, he can't have like a 5-hour movie, but it just would have been more. Yeah, it just seems to be missing a few things.
Well, I totally agree. So while your mic's still have you two, then favourite bits. We could go on forever here because Susan has got loads. Over to you, Tim.
Okay, my favorite bits, just to get them. I love when Anakin is leaving his mom. Thought that was a really sweet scene. I love the preliminaries to the pod race. The pod race was just, it was just like American Graffiti to me. That was really where that rested. And the other thing that I really liked, I liked the scenes in the Water City. That was really cool. And the ground battle was really interesting too, and fun. I mean, and yeah. So those are my favorite moments right now. I guess the lightsaber battle was really epic, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I like what's his name? Qui-Gon? What's his name?
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon. I liked him.
Jinn.
Yeah, I liked him. Obi-Wan was okay. Yeah, I do prefer Alec Guinness. Yoda was okay. although I felt that they sort of economized a lot of what he was saying too. I did like Samuel L. Jackson. I wish they'd kept him alive in the movie series. I did like Padme Amidala. I did like Boss Nass. But there was also a lot of other things that I didn't like. I didn't like that flying insect, whatever that thing was. Watto. I didn't like the Anakin story. Yeah, it's
Did
But
Watto
anyway.
remind you of a Jewish person?
Little, yeah. The sound did sort of remind me of a Jewish person as well. Yeah, or the Jewish stereotype, I should say, not the. So that's the other issue, is that I kind of wish they had sort of either made it flatter or sort of rounded it off with Watto and Jar Jar Binks and the sort of Asian sounding aliens with the long robes and all that.
Neimoidians.
Yeah, the Neimoidians. Yeah, so I don't know. I just get the uneasy feeling that probably they needed to either include every single bit of filmed material, or they needed to make a 5-hour movie. And I understand they can't do that, and I understand that the theaters won't run it. But I think it would have actually made it more understandable. Probably not digestible, but more understandable. When I was a kid, I did read a lot of Star Wars books and Star Trek books as well. And again, same thing, just like with Solo. They waited too long to film a movie about that. So, I like it in a way, but I agree with Harlan Ellison that it's probably not the most intellectual, the most thought out. And maybe that's why Lucas was trying to include all the political stuff. So he could say, oh, it's not just a shoot 'em up, bang, bang war thing. There's supposed to be, reasons behind it. But at the same point, it's called Star Wars, not Star Politics.
Okay. And since he mentioned the politics, when Palpatine is actually seeing Padme, you see him on screen together for the first time. That is so creepy. It's like he has got the hots for her. Like that really creeped me out. I was like, oh my gosh, he's hitting on her? Really?
Well,
anyway.
Okay, but here's the another strange item. They even mentioned it in Family Guy and other places making fun of it. How come there doesn't even seem to be 10 women in this universe? What the heck? Can't find even 2 movies with 3 women in it. What the heck?
But Celia Imrie plays one of the fighter pilots.
Yeah, I totally forgot she had a little cameo in that. Yeah. And I thought, oh wow, yeah, she's in this. But there again, wasn't the service droid at the beginning? Wasn't that a female voice?
Yeah, it was a woman.
Was it a woman? Yeah. It was.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. But we'll go to Ethan next.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's already been mentioned, the Gungan City. I mean, Lee even said as well, some of the scenery in this and the shots were so beautiful, the designs for all that, but the Gungan City was just so beautiful. It had such a beautiful look. And while I'm on the subject of the Gungans, I don't know why this always makes me laugh. There's just this one tiny bit that makes me laugh. It has to do with Captain Tarple. Is it Captain Tarple? He's the captain of the Gungans. You know,
yes, you're right.
Yeah, he's the one who's like, no, King Jaja, use that in big doodle this time. During the war bit, the big final fight, it does have its comedy moments where you go, okay, that was pretty funny. I don't know why this always makes me laugh. And it's stupid where the droids are coming in and they sort of go, activate the droids. And the droids get ready. And Captain Tarple's like, ouch time. Ouch
okay,
time.
TC-14. TC-14 was played by Lindsay Duncan of Torchwood Battery Wharf or Canary Wharf fame.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I knew that there was another really cool Doctor Who connection there.
Well, there's a lot of people in Doctor Who that were also in Star Wars. As well.
All the films were made in
England.
England, yeah.
Yeah. So what else have we got?
Movies.
So you have Julian Glover that was in the Hoth Attack. You have Brian Blessed.
And also Richard Armitage is in A Fighter as well.
Yeah, that's right. I said the Gungans, I said the city and stuff, but and that one little bit. The pod race is really good. That is a really good scene. I mean, we've all mentioned that, and that's always going to be mentioned. The big final fight, that's really good. But the big lightsaber fight between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul himself, arguably, that is one of the best Star Wars fights ever. I actually prefer... People do say the big fight in Revenge of the Sith is a great one, but to me, this is arguably the best fight in the whole of the prequel series. It was because no one had ever seen anything like it with that double-edged lightsaber. These two Jedis against one Sith, and just seeing them, like, even if you cut out the bits of the other fights, it's just one great big fight. Just then going from the hangar to, I believe, the power generators of the planet, and just that whole setting was stunning. I remember watching it on IMAX during the premiere, and you think, Christ, that's amazing. Yeah. That wins #1 favorite moment. That whole big fight with Darth Maul at the end. Yeah. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And of course, Yoda in the second or third movie, was it the second? But unfortunately, that's the problem. It looks too CGI. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's great. It's great having him holding the lightsaber, just not in this movie.
Yeah, but every time I see Yoda fight whatever, in the CGI, and I think I mentioned this before, he just looks like a Dragon Ball Z character. What the? He's even going, yeah.
Yeah, it's the CGI. The problem mainly is the CGI in some.
It is the CGI, as it's mentioned. Watching this again, it is really dated. Unfortunately, it is so dated now. But the version I watched, I remember the original version of Phantom Menace. Yoda was a puppet, and then they redid the movie where they changed it from puppet to CGI Yoda. I don't know why they did that. They could have just left it.
They did it between the premiere where you saw it and the actual movie, because they were still in post-production up until their final release date. Mm-hmm. And in the United States, Ethan, they put it back like 2 weeks actually to do more. So we saw it a month and a half after you guys did. But I waited in line for that whole month and a half. I'm just kidding.
Well, the version I rewatched today, I'm positive it was a puppet.
Yeah. I don't have it on.
Yeah, I know you had CGI in Attack of the Clones, but I think he was puppet in this one.
He wasn't though. He wasn't by the time it was released in the United States.
Yeah.
I tell you the truth. I'm not fucking lying to you.
I know. Yeah, we believe you.
Now, was there a special edition of the original trilogy, and a special edition of the prequels? Because I know there was a Star Wars where they added more, lizards and things flying around and all that.
That was the 97
yeah, that was I was talking to my brother today about that. We actually said when they added that Jabba the Hutt scene in New Hope. I mean, that looked so bad when they first did it. Jabba the Hutt just didn't look right. But then they redid it again, where the CGI is much better, I suppose. It's all right.
Well, it does look more realistic. It doesn't look like something we just add in for 5 seconds of story. Even though they did do it for the radio version. In the radio version, he does meet up with Jabba and his little agents, Han Solo, and all that.
Yeah.
But,
I have to point out a fun little extra for that one. That scene, I always loved the original version of that scene where they had shot that, but it was originally a deleted scene. And the original Jabba the Hutt, before they made him a slug, he was a big fat Irish gangster sort of guy,
Right.
which
Yeah.
wearing a fur coat, which is very surreal. But it's interesting when you look at this stuff because they must have thought, obviously, oh, let's just change him into a big giant slug thing.
Yeah.
But it's so funny when you look back on that and you see this logo. Oh, top of the morning, Han Solo. Where have you been?
It's good to see the Hutts in this movie, just a brief moment.
Yeah, Jabba and his
Wife,
his brother, or something.
yeah, something like
Gardula the Hutt.
that. Yeah. Brian, are we keeping you awake?
Yes.
Over to you.
Right. Favorite moments? Okay, so favorite moments. I guess my number one top favorite moment is, again, it like pretty much what most of you said, is that very and lightsaber battle duel between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. That is the best, pretty much the best scene within Phantom Menace. And I would say my second would probably be the fight between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon itself, like when they're on Tatooine and they heading back to the ship, and Darth Maul just comes jumping down and starts fighting Qui-Gon. And I think my other favorite scene would probably be the reveal of Queen Amidala, because throughout the whole course of the film, you didn't really know that was decoy until Natalie Portman's character,
Played by Keira Knightley, Elizabeth Swann from the pirate movies.
Yep.
Who's are these?
But you didn't know that was a decoy until Natalie Portman's character, Padme, revealed herself that she was the queen. So that I think that is a cool and favorite scene of mine as well. And I love the scenery of Gungan City and everything. So I think that those are my favorite moments.
Thanks for that, Brian. Where do I start? Yes, like the lightsaber duel is awesome. The pod race is awesome. But for me, it's the acting for several actors. Well, as you say, Ray Parks as Darth Maul, sinister as hell. Brilliant makeup design. I mean, when they sort of killed him at the end of the saber fight, you think, wow, why do that? Like you thought this was going to be the new Vader. You thought he'd carry on into the next movie, but also as well, Ian, what's his name now? Emperor Ian
McDermott.
Ian McDermott, awesome actor. I've seen him in many movies, many TV series. It's just his voice, it just oozes pure evil. The way the way you can see he's progressing and getting further and further, going to become the Emperor by the end of the third movie. Brilliant actor. You couldn't see this movie being made without that character. That I'm glad they used the same actor. So yeah, it's just brilliant. So final say and scores now. We'll go Brian. We'll go back that way around. Brian.
I would give Phantom Menace a. I would mostly give it an 8 out of 10 for a movie.
Yeah, that's not bad going. Not bad going. Ethan.
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. What would I get? What would I give it? And I probably would give it an 8 as well, actually, because it does a very good job at like all the special effects and stuff like that. And as you said, the acting's all great and there. And Lee beat me to it. I was going to mention Ian McDiarmid, but it flew out my head. But yeah, 8 out of 10, I'd give it.
Not bad score. For a movie what's supposed to be well hated by everybody in the world.
There's worst out there. There's so much worst out there.
No. But from the prequel trilogy, it's not the worst out of the prequel trilogy. We'll go to the Love Sofa.
All right. Well, I like this movie. When I first saw it, I would have given it an 11 out of 10. You know what hype does to a person. Now I would agree it's about an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. And you know, if I was to deconstruct it and actually lay into it with all the all the levels of criticism that I could possibly level at it as a serious enterprise, I would probably give it a 6. But I personally love it, so it's still got an 8.5. I mean, I didn't neglect to buy this one when I started buying the prequel. Oh, thanks. This one when I started buying the trilogy. Thanks.
So, well, now this is the other question I have: is how many versions there are. I'm gonna give it a 7 only because of the cast. It's not that I really like it. I don't. I'd rather be watching the original trilogy. I did like the last 15 minutes of The Last Jedi. I did like Rogue One. I think that was more consistent. And I understand there's issues with that as well. And of course, they have James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, which is wonderful, but you can tell that his voice is aged. So yeah, that's the other issue is that, the sound effects and the music is already filtered through, and you can't start doing that for all the actors as well, because then it'll probably get accused of auto-tune and that'll ruin it as well. So I understand, and even, George Lucas said that he had to cut the pod race because he was afraid of boring people and that it was too long-winded. The two-headed announcer, yeah, I could have lived without that. Yeah, see, there's just some things that if anybody had come to me for free or for money, I would have said, no, don't put that in. Don't put the whining in of Hayden Christensen. Don't put in the two-headed alien. Just don't ruin it. That kind of ruins it a little bit for me. I know that Mark Hamill, whines a little bit, but he does do it better than Hayden Christensen. So, it's just some things that are a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'd rather watch Rogue One than this, but it is a good cast. It's a nice idea. I just think they probably should have had. I don't know. Something needs to be retooled on this a little bit.
Cool. Right. What do I go? What should I say for this then? I don't know. Good on Lucas for bringing John Williams back as well.
Oh yeah.
Also good on Lucas for bringing Anthony Daniels back, and Baker,
and Kenny Baker,
and Frank Oz.
and Frank. Yeah.
No, you had to bring them back. You couldn't have other people playing those parts. So I'm going to give it an 8. I think I am. Yeah, it's not as bad as people make it out. I think people just hear bad reviews of when it first came out and they stick by that, and they don't really go down and sit down and watch it themselves, to be honest. It is a good movie. It's a good start to one of the biggest legacies in the world, of the Star Wars legacy. Yeah, it's not bad. So, was everybody happy with this cast today?
Yep.
Cool.
Yay.
Good. That's all. As long as we're pleasing you, Brian, we're okay. You know, we've got to keep Brian happy.
Very
What-
funny.
Which question was that? A question, Ethan? Or?
Yeah. Before we round this off, I finally watched the trailer, right, for the new Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
You were
Yes.
initially. Right. Now everybody's going on about, you hear Darth Vader's breathing. Now
Yeah.
what? And of course, you've got Rey, I think her
Yeah.
name, who's got the evil look, the red lightsaber. Everyone's like, what's going on there? But for me, the bit I want to know the most, why the hell has C-3PO got red eyes?
Yeah, that's
That bit is the bit I'm thinking the most. I was like, what the hell is he doing with red eyes?
I think maybe the Emperor is looking for a new body.
I said that, yeah. I said maybe they've planted it in and he's like taking over.
oh my gosh, he took over 3PO.
You never know. This Force Ghost.
So,
Yeah, it could be.
so like 3PO's not only been a battle robot with the other head and the other body and everything. He will be the Emperor too.
Can you imagine that? C-3PO with the robe and the hood on.
Everybody is trying to figure out that trailer. You just have to wait until the movie.
I gotta admit, I give kudos to them for a bloody good trailer to really make you go, what on earth? And
Yeah.
a bloody good.
I like how they started with all the past in that trailer.
Because it is clearly a Skywalker. It's the whole Skywalker tale, and I know what they did in the last film, but I know what they did in the last film, but she's got to be Luke's daughter, Rey, somehow.
Oh, she's got to be Obi-Wan's daughter.
Ooh.
Because
Obi-Wan didn't have kids that we know of.
But then, because it is the whole Skywalker trilogy, so, well, yeah, actually, it is a trilogy because you've got the first 3 films, then a prequel series, and then the sequel to the original films.
Yeah, but there again, see, Obi-Wan died, and right. So when was the Force Awakens set? Is it 20 or 30 years after?
30 years after Return of the Jedi. So years have passed. So
yeah, but she's not 30, is she?
Yeah, she's a young girl. So she's got to be. I mean, think about it. It must be. I'm going to shut up now. I'm just going to, because I'm going to rack everybody's brains now.
Or as someone mentioned during the week, it could be an Emperor clone. But there we go.
And of course, they killed off Snoke, so you never got to really know who he was. And then the books are different. The books have more, villains thought and all that. So,
well, we'll find out at Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. But,
are you waiting in line till then?
I don't know. I don't queue for anything. I know I'm British, but I never queue. I know we're known for queuing, but we're not. Oh no, not me.
Camping outside in London, the big cinema, and you're like that. Come on.
I think the last one I queued up for was another sci-fi movie back in the day, but it wasn't that. It wasn't the Star Wars one. Right. I'm glad you've all enjoyed today. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining us from talking the Phantom Menace. You guys out there, if you enjoy watching these and you'd like to be on, just we just get together, have a chat, have a bit of a laugh. you know, if you want to be on these, just get in touch with us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're all over the place. We're universal. So, you know, and check out all our other past video casts. They're all out there for everybody to see. So, until next time, it's Roger and out.